Okay, we're going to go over this testimony. Let's go ahead and get started.
It started when I was 6. Um, he's about almost 2 years older than I am, and my parents were moving from Louisiana to Orlando, and
So she was 6 and he was 7 at the time.
they sent us, me and my sister, up to while they were moving. Um, that's my earliest memory of him just trying to do things. And
where were you at this time when you're remembering 6 years old?
we would watch movies in front of the TV, and we would all lay in front of the TV, and we would have pillows and blankets.
This was in...
Yes. And he would reach under the blankets and try to do things, and I would try to push him off, but
So she's telling us that here she is, she's 6. He's about a year and a half older. She says almost 8, so what, he's 7.5 or so. And they're in the living room watching TV with the rest of the family. Everybody's sitting there, and they're under the covers, sitting on the sofa with the covers covering them. And she said that he's reaching under the blanket and trying to put his hands in her drawers. And she's trying to push him away, but nobody seems to notice.
he was bigger and stronger and older.
Because he was bigger and stronger, this big 7-year-old, almost 8, was so powerful and so scary. Even with her family there, she was totally intimidated into allowing him to put his finger in her.
It was in front of everybody, and I don't
It was in front of everybody, but yet nobody noticed. Isn't that amazing?
know how. I didn't say anything, but I just didn't know any better.
So just a minute ago she said that she was pushing him away, and now she's saying that she didn't say anything and she didn't know any better.
And
Was this under a blanket, though, that he was doing it?
mm-hmm.
So maybe they didn't know what was happening, the other people?
No.
So you can imagine this. Here's, kids sitting on the sofa watching the cartoons. Mom and dad are in the living room watching the TV with them, and the little 7.5-year-old's sitting next to the 6-year-old, and he's got his hands down between her legs, and the family doesn't notice it, right? And she's not saying anything, right? And she said earlier that she's pushing him away, but the family doesn't notice that. It's just interesting.
Another time.
What city was this in? How to spell that? That's correct. Is it spelled again? Was he living there at that time too?
Yes, he was living there. We were just visiting while my parents were moving.
Okay. Whose house was this actually where you were at when this was happening?
His parents.
Sounds okay. And can you be a little specific? We've both been at this a very long time, so you're not going to say anything that's going to shock us or offend us. It may be a little awkward for you, but I need you to try to be specific.
He's trying to get her to tell us what it is that he did to her. And throughout the entire period, apparently the only thing he ever did was use his finger to pleasure her and to massage her breasts. At least that's what she tells us. So let's continue listening to this.
As to, what he did.
He would put his hands in under my pants, under my underwear, and basically just finger me. I guess it's...
Yeah, but I mean, if that's... Did he put his finger inside you?
Yes.
Now, at that point, somebody who was upset because they were sexually molested and they're giving the account of the actual molestation and what was being done to them, This is the time that you would expect her to be emotional. This is the time you'd expect her to be going and sobbing and saying, "Oh, it's so terrible to remember." But that's not when it happens. Watch.
Um, and there were other times that he did things too, but he would always call them, you know, before we left the room or left any place, he would say, we weren't doing anything, we were just laying down, or we were just playing hide and seek. He would always make sure that he told me that. And
So here's where she gets upset. This is the point where he's talking. He's asking him about the fingering. That's not a problem. But when he starts asking, she starts telling the story about how he, as they were getting ready to leave, he would tell them the story, tell her, you know, the story that she has to give the family so that they don't get caught. And it was like, you know, just tell them we were laying down or whatever. You heard it. So, you know, here's where she's starting to get emotional. He told me that I had to tell people. Here, listen to it again, because this is a long video and I'm probably going to cut it in pieces. So I just want, but I do want to hear this part one more time. So let's go back just a notch here.
you know, before we left the room or left any place, he would say, we weren't doing anything, we were just laying down, or we were just playing hide and seek. He would always make sure that he told me that. And I didn't know. I was a kid, I didn't know any better. And at one time I told my sister, and I thought I was telling them, because they asked, you know, what were you guys doing? And I said, I didn't know, and I said we were laying down.
Well, just now she said that that's what he told her to say, that they were laying down or playing hide and seek, and she was almost in tears about him telling her that, as if that was the terrible thing that he did to her. See, this is what I'm talking about. When you're trying to find out whether someone's telling the truth, you want to see where they're getting emotional when they're not getting emotional. And in this kind of case, it's pretty obvious that she's not emotional when they're talking about what he's doing to her down in her pants. You know, she gets emotional at this point. It doesn't make any sense.
And I thought that I was telling them, and they just ignored it. And I just went to sleep.
Of course they weren't going to understand what you're saying, because you're telling him the alibi. You're telling them the alibi he gave you. And then you expect them to figure it out through that? You know. And then she said earlier, just a minute ago, that she said that she didn't know that it was wrong. So if she didn't know that it was wrong, then why was she hiding it? And why was she, you know, so upset at that time if she said just now that it wasn't, that she didn't even know there was a problem with it?
Crying because I didn't know better. But there were times where...
So she said she was crying because she didn't know better. Why would you cry if you didn't know better? I mean, like, if you're eating the chocolate out of the refrigerator and you're not supposed to be doing that, but you're doing it, and everybody in the house is having some chocolate, you don't know that it's wrong. Why would you be crying about doing something that's wrong if you didn't know that it was wrong? It doesn't make any sense.
Another time, he told me that he had to have surgery on his penis because had been pinching them, and that he couldn't pee, and he had to have surgery. So he made me see it and see the scars and see his penis, basically.
So he had a surgery. Please imagine this. You've got a couple kids. I don't know, somewhere between 10 and 15. I don't know, because she's bouncing all around. But here they are. He you know, she's there, and he says, "Yeah, I just had a surgery." She's like, "What kind of surgery?" "Well, it was, you know, down there." I can see him now. Come here. I'm going to force you to look at it. Come here. Get over here. You better look at this thing. And hold her down. Oh, come on. Come on. We're talking a year and a half apart. You don't think she was interested in taking a look? I mean, what I personally would imagine is that she insisted.
Where was that at? At the same house? And at what time was that age were you?
We were older. We were in our early teens. I want to say maybe 12. I was 12. He must have been almost 14.
So she just said it. She was 12. He was 13. Working on 14. That's what she just said. Anybody want to argue that point? She was 12. He was almost 13, almost 14. So he's 13. She's 12. You got that now? I hope you guys are understanding this, because this is the most stupid thing I've ever heard.
When he did that, did he have you do anything to his penis, or did he just show you?
Just rub it.
Just rub it?
So he just had surgery, and now he wants her to rub it. Funny.
And did anything happen as you were rubbing his penis?
I came in the room. She came in the room.
So this is great. She said he's forcing her to look at it. Come here, look at it. So she's looking at it. Now he's like, rub it. So she's rubbing it. Against her will, of course. You can imagine she's just, almost in tears that he's making her do this. And then an adult walks into the room. An adult walks into the room. Now, listen to what she says happens when the adult walks into the room. This is hilarious.
Did she see this?
She was busy. She was older. I mean, they didn't pay attention to a lot of the things. So.
She was busy. Can you imagine? You walk into the room and there's the kids, teenage kids, 12, 13 years old, and she's over there jacking him. You know what? She's too busy. She's doing laundry. She's vacuuming. She's getting dinner ready. She don't have time to be seeing the kids over here masturbating on the sofa. Hello? Come on.
That happened. There were other times these are just the times that I remember.
Sure.
She just can't remember. There were other times, but she can't remember. So we've got this time. The only time that she really remembers so far that I've done on this, I've only done a portion of this clip. I'm going to cut it in pieces. But I'm assuming that she's going to have a hard time with this testimony, because she doesn't have very good memories or vivid memories of what happened, other than this point with the penis thing, and when they were sitting on the sofa and he reached under the blankets. So, this is really strange. Why would somebody bring this stuff out?